Hi everybody, this is Andy. I'm the prop chef here at Two Perspective Studio. Welcome in on this delightful Thursday. It's pretty delightful here in South Carolina. It's been chilly the last few days, but we've got straight sunshine and almost 70 degrees. So never know what Mother Nature is going to throw you around here. But pretty day here. Hope the weather where you are is cooperating with whatever plans you have. This is the Live Sales and Crafting Down South group, and today is crafting day. I am going to attempt a plate of French toast. I'm going to be using a mold that I made a couple of years ago. It's not a great mold. I don't make great molds. Even 2 years later, I don't make great molds, but I try hard. I didn't know a whole lot about mold making a couple of years ago, so it was sort of, whatever I came up with is what I came up with. But what I did was I took a piece of just regular old white bread, like from a loaf that you buy in the grocery store. Hi, Liz. And I let it sit out on a rack for probably about a week before I did the mold, and I let it get really hard. And then I took some, and I'm not saying that this is the correct way to do it, I'm just telling you what I did. It's probably not the best way to do it. Hello, Jerry, how are you? Hey, Jamie. Hi, Carol. Welcome in, everybody. So after my bread went stale, I coated it with a pretty decent couple of layers of Mod Podge and let it dry thoroughly. Then I set out to make the mold. Now, at the time, I didn't realize there was so many different kinds of mold making material, and I just had the putty kind. So I ended up making this extremely ugly. I know this is a terrible mold, but like I said, this was 2 years ago, and I didn't know. Like, I still am not great with molds. I have more disasters with molds than anything, so I usually leave the mold making to my friends that know how to do it, and I just say, "Can you make that? Tell me how much it costs, and you do the tough stuff," because I am just not a good mold maker. But I just put out this putty, and then I just sort of smashed my crusted, hardened bread down in this putty and let it set up, which it doesn't take long for this stuff to set up. Hi, Cece. And I just, pulled it out. So this is all I have for a toast mold. I probably need to have people make me actual nice toast molds, like a sourdough mold or a rye bread mold or something like that, that suits my purposes a little bit better. But I'm just making French toast today. This is sort of going to be a trial and error kind of thing. I was in Target, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and I raided the magazine section, which I do about once a year. I'll go and I'll find, especially around a holiday like Thanksgiving, Christmas, they come out with the jumbo magazines, all the cooking stuff and, neat recipes and stuff. So I bought like probably 7 or 8 different cooking magazines. I flipped through them, and if there looks like there's some stuff in it that I like or that I want to duplicate or replicate, I guess I should say, I'll buy the magazine, and then I end up ripping out I go through all the magazines and I rip out the pages, and I make a big stack of papers of stuff that I want to do replications of. So I found this recipe. I think this is from the November issue of Better Homes and Gardens magazine. It's a whole big article on French toast. They do it a couple of different ways. This one here caught my eye. JR loves French toast. I'm a pancake person. I would rather have pancakes. I'm not big on French toast. But I thought, I've made pancakes, I've made waffles, I've never made French toast. I wonder how hard it would be. And then I remembered my funky mold that I had sitting over on the shelf over there, and I was like, let me see if I can make some French toast. This one happens to be a chai tea French toast, where in with your eggs and your milk, you put chai tea spices like the cardamom and the cinnamon and all that to make it, you know, the chai spice. And they soak the bread in the custard with the chai spice, and then they put extra cinnamon on it, and then they drizzle it with condensed milk, which I don't know if you can see it very well in the picture, but condensed milk, when it sits up on something, it has a really high sugar content, but when it dries like the glaze on a glazed donut, so it's partially transparent. And I have a way to do that because I've sort of perfected the glaze on the glazed donut. So that looks like what's up here. And they've got some butter on top and things like that. I'm not sure that I'm going to put butter on it. I don't think I've ever in my life seen anybody put butter on French toast. Do you guys put butter on French toast? Never seen this before. I don't know why, especially on a chai French toast, it doesn't seem like it belongs, but I don't know. I put butter on pancakes sometimes, and I'll put butter on a waffle. I've never seen anybody put butter on French toast. So that was new. Maybe they just did it for, you know, photogenics and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Let me know if you put butter on French toast. I'm kind of interested. Hey, Deborah. You've never made pancakes, Jamie? Pancakes are fairly easy to make fake, and you can make them look real pretty easily. The French toast, I wasn't exactly sure. I actually did not prepare a lot in advance for this. I was kind of busy this morning, so we're kind of doing this together, which is something that drives me crazy. I like to have done it before I come on, just so that I don't make a disaster on film, but that's all right. I did manage one piece ahead of time, and I put it on my little plate here. The clay is still wet. You can see the paint is on my plate. I plopped it down there when it was still kind of wet, but I mean, it's pretty. Let me pull up my picture here. It's not far off. It might be a little bit lighter in color than what they have, but that's a pretty easy fix. So I kind of figured out an easy way, semi-easy way, to make a decently realistic French toast piece. Let's see if I can get it a little bit closer to you so you can see a little more detail on there. I do have a little sprinkling of cinnamon on there, and I have some swirled in, because I figured if you were putting the chai spice in there, it was going to be swirling around in here. You know, even if you put cinnamon and stuff and you mix it in with the egg and milk mixture before you soak your bread in it, it's going to give that not only the texture, but it gives that colorization and stuff in there. So that was kind of what I was going for in this. So they've got, and I have paint all over me now, they've got 8 pieces of French toast piled up on this plate. I don't know that I'm going to do 8 pieces, but I am going to do several more, I think. I may go to 5. I don't think I'm going to go to 8. I think it's going to be too unstable for for this. It may look cool as a replica to do all 8 pieces, but I think maybe 5 is going to be plenty. So I'm going to just set that one over there for a minute. And I've got my ugly mold here. I'm going to get my Model Magic, which is my go-to for most things. Although I'm testing out some stuff. What I wanted to do today was quiche. And I'm going to be doing quiche probably on Monday. Either Monday or Tuesday, I'm not sure which one. of next week. I have some new techniques that I want to share, and one of them involves a different way of doing some salt dough to make it look flaky and bubbly, like a pastry crust for a quiche. So I'm kind of excited to try that. And the other technique it has to do with melted jelly wax. So I'm going to be trying both of those techniques to make some quiche. And hopefully it'll come out good enough for me to share. If not, I'll be sharing something else and you'll know it didn't work. So actually, I think I'm going to do all of this. I'm not just going to do it a little at a time. I'll do all of it at once. Let's see. I've got this in fourths right now. What I did was I took some of the clay to make the piece of toast, and I tinted it with yellow ochre to give it that golden undertone color. And then I took another piece of clay that was smaller, and I tinted it with some let's see. I used burnt sienna and I used burnt umber in the second set. And then I swirled everything together. So I'm going to show you all of that. I'm going to do some bigger pieces and some smaller pieces here to try and get it. I just want to make sure I don't get too much. Like I said, I only did this one piece, so you're going to have to bear with me because I didn't even write down all of my how much clay I used for each one, in other words. I didn't even write it down. And I think this is probably about the right size for the toast. So pull a little bit of that off, make that a little smaller. This is sort of how I formulate my stuff. I don't always, it takes me a little bit to get it all working the way that I want it. And then I write it all down, and then I can do it the same way every time. And that's kind of the goal in all this. You want to be able to, especially if you're selling, you want to be able to replicate it fairly the same way every time. Doesn't always work out that way. Alright, so I think I can make 3 more pieces out of this. I have the 3 larger pieces that I'm going to tint in the golden color, and then the 3 smaller pieces that I'll do in the darker color. And then we'll swirl them all together. So I'm going to grab a pair of gloves so I don't get all messy again. And I'm going to grab some yellow ochre paint. Making stuff like this makes me want breakfast for dinner. I love having breakfast for dinner. Pancakes and bacon and eggs. That's so yummy. I could eat breakfast any time of the day. That's probably my favorite meal time is breakfast. So I have a yellow ochre here from Master's Touch, which is the Hobby Lobby brand. Pull the little, I always get these little skins that form around the opening. So I did condition this clay ahead of time, so that's already done. Now I put probably just maybe like a lima bean size paint blob in each one of these to make it that sort of golden undertone that you have when you soak the bread in the custard mix, the eggs and the milk. And then I'm going to blend all this up. And it'll be a nice golden color. I really like for baked items to get an undertone of ochre. I do that a lot in pie crusts and cake bases and things like that. It's just a nice, realistic undertone color, I think, yellow ochre is. And then you can go over it with one or two more layers of two subsequently darker browns, or a tan and a brown, to make it shaded the way that it should be after baking. So that's one little tip on how to get your baked goods a little more realistic looking. And I just want to make sure that I get this worked in pretty well. And then I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to do the other ones. I know it's kind of boring watching me mix. Normally I would have this part kind of done ahead of time. But like I said, I only had done this one slice just a little while ago. So I haven't had time to do all these things. So you're coming along for the ride here. You may watch me make a huge mess, I'm not sure. And that's okay, because I make messes a lot of times, and I threw away several things this week. I was having a rough week. Nothing was coming out right that I was trying to replicate. And I took out a lot of garbage. And it's frustrating because, you know, it's money, it's wasteful, but it's the only way to get it right is really getting it right. And if you have to do it 5 times to get it right, that's what you have to do. But then you know, going forward, what not to do. I think the weather had a lot to do with it. It got very cold. The house was sort of, I think it sort of freaked out a little bit, going from air conditioning on all the time straight over to the heat, and having it so cold it couldn't keep up with itself. It was creaking, and things were just not doing well. But it's back up to almost 70 today, so hopefully it'll just level out and things will be okay going forward. Okay, so I got those rolled, and I'm going to take these 3 smaller ones, and I'm going to add in some of this burnt sienna. Same amount, about a lima bean. I know it's a little bit less on the clay, but I want it to be pretty dark, like a cinnamony color. I know that's probably not a word. Cinnamony? Yeah, I don't like wasting the time or the money, but I have been sort of diligently working on some new projects in my, when I'm waiting for other things to dry so that I can continue, I go and grab my projects that I'm trying to make for future things, and I work on that while other things are drying. But I certainly don't like it when they don't come out as well. Alright, so I've got that to about that stage. It looks a little bit swirly, but that's alright, because I'm still going to add in a little bit of this burnt umber. Not what I wanted to happen. My clay is a little cold today. had it warmed up earlier and then I put it back in the bag. Alright. And one more. And once I get all 4 pieces put on the stack here, I'll sort of evaluate and see if I need to do a 5th piece or not. I just don't want it to be overly top heavy. Alright, I'm going to put just a little bit, I'm going to make a big mess here, just a little bit of this brown, which is the burnt umber. And I'm just going to get this worked in a little bit, but I still want to be able to see both colors. So I want to sort of work it in but make it swirl. So I'm going to sort of stretch it and twist it so that we kind of get a swirl going. And I'm probably going to roll it out on the desk here. Yeah. Because that sort of makes a better swirl doing it that way. And I'll clean up this space when I'm done. There we go. Having a nice hard non-stick surface to roll your clay on into worms not only helps you condition it, but it helps get the air out of it when you're working with it. Because sometimes, especially during the colder weather, hey AAA, we're going to be making a stack of chai tea French toast. Hopefully. We have one piece going over here that I did earlier, and I'm going to try to make it look halfway realistic. We'll see what we come up with. Alright, so we've got these pieces going here. Now, what I did, I'm going to get rid of my gloves. What I did for this piece here, to make it swirled throughout, I took the gold color, the yellow ochre base color, and I added in one of the other colors, the burnt sienna and the burnt umber? Yeah, burnt umber and burnt sienna. So we have 2 burnts here. I sort of put them on top of one another, folded them in half, kind of like a taco, and then I proceeded to stretch and fold and stretch and fold and mush and roll and stretch. What I'm trying to do is create a swirl without mixing the whole thing together. If that makes sense. Now, when I did it the first time, I tried to take some of this, put it on the bottom of my toast mold, and then I put this on top of it and squished it down, but it didn't look right. That's why I decided to go with this swirl pattern, because I think this swirl is way more realistic on what you get in a piece of French toast than just plopping it one on the other. Hi Pam, how are you? I hope you feel better soon. So I took that swirled piece and I just set it down in there and mushed it right into my ugly toast mold. It is an ugly mold, but it suits the purpose. Now this is a putty mold, so it's extremely stiff. It's not like the nice rubberized molds. But like I said, 2 years ago I didn't know how to make a rubberized mold, so I made this mold instead. So there's a place at the bottom where I usually can flick the toast out of there, and I get sort of a funny shape at the bottom, but I don't mind because it kind of gives it a little bit of character. So that's what we have on this one. We have a nice swirl. It's got lots of decent texture on it, just like a piece of toast. You know, it's got the formed in on the edges like toast does, and I've got this little place at the bottom where I picked it out that it kind of looks okay. I don't mind. I have the same indentation on this one, and I don't mind. So there's one. I'm going to go ahead and put the other ones together because I don't want the clay sitting out for too long. So I'm just going to place the one on top of the other and kind of give it a scorch, and then fold it in half like a taco, and then I'm going to start to pull it. And then just overlap it and pull it some more, and overlap it, and overlap it. Give it a little roll, give it a pull. Just don't want to mix it too much. Oop. Don't want to break it either. This one almost looks like it's mixing too much, but I think it'll be alright if I just swirl it around and leave it. So we've got a swirl on there. So I'm just going to stick it right down in our ugly toast mold. When I made this toast mold, I sort of overlapped my edges a little bit onto my piece of hardened bread that I put in here. So that makes it a little more difficult to get out, but it actually gave it a little bit of character, and I don't mind it. I have a feeling that after a while, because I have some cracks in it already, I have a feeling after a while it's just going to break, and I'll have to do it again. But I will probably do it in a rubber mold, or I will get somebody to do it the correct way for me who knows how to make molds. So we have this piece. Looks pretty good. And then we'll do our third piece. Same way. See, it doesn't take much time to do this. It's not a terribly difficult project, I don't think. It takes a few steps. Let's see if twisting this makes a difference. I don't know. It's okay on the one side, I guess. Alright, put that in there. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the party. We're having a French toast party. A chai tea infused French toast. Replica. Got it from a picture in Better Homes and Gardens. Is that what I said? I think it is. So if you want to know how to make this for real, if you're looking for a Thanksgiving morning or Black Friday morning breakfast and you like chai flavors, pick up the November edition of Better Homes and Gardens magazine and you can learn how to make chai tea infused French toast for real. So there we have that one. So they're all different, and I love that. I love how it swirled it all in there. So to make it look more like this one, which is more like a real piece of French toast, it just takes a couple more steps. I'm going to grab some more gloves. I've been going through gloves like crazy lately. Been very busy here at Two Perspective Studio. Okay, so we have our 3 pieces. First thing I'm going to do is make the edges of the bread look like actual bread. You know, they have to be darkened and all that. So one of my go-to colors for baking and breads and shadings and things is the raw sienna. I think it has a really good natural color. Another piece of the skin on here. Really good natural color for breads and baked goods, especially for shading colors. I like the yellow ochre for the base colors, but the raw sienna is one of my go-tos for toppers and shading and things like that, as well as let me get this one, crusts of bread and toast. Now, this is a number 10 flat brush. It is a soft bristle. I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going to take off most of the water. You just want a damp brush. You don't want it saturated. And you'll want to take a little bit of your color on both sides, get it all on there good. And then all you need to do is go around the edges. Now where it's sort of kinked and the bread piece comes in, you'll want to go in a little bit more onto the top of it to make it look realistic. If you have, like I have a picture in front of me, it doesn't exactly show the piece all flat on there, but I can see what the crust edges look like. But if you have just a piece of like white bread or something from a loaf that you have, if you put it in front of you, you can kind of see where the crust goes on the piece of bread, and it actually comes up most of the time. If you look flat down on a piece of bread, you'll see that it's going to come up on the top just a little bit. So after I painted this one side, I'm going to take my glove. I'll show you here in just a second. Let me get up to the top and I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going to take my glove. Now see, I've got that line painted there. I'm going to take my glove and I'm going to just sort of pat and smush, maybe, that line to make it not so harsh, for one thing, and it sort of smooths it into the top of the bread. So you just sort of rubbing right along that edge to make it, you know, not a harsh paint line. You're just going to make it look, even though the crust of a bread piece is sort of a hard line there, your eye isn't, if you're looking at something fake, your eye isn't going to see it as real unless you soften the line, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's kind of weird the way that it works, but it really does work. I know you're saying, that doesn't make any sense. I know it doesn't, but it's what works. This is all about creating an illusion. You're kind of like a magician if you're creating these fake food replicas, because all you have to do is create the illusion that it's the real thing. Now see, I've got that real hard line on the bottom as compared to the soft line on the top. See, I'm just going to take my glove and just smooth that out. I'm not like necessarily drawing it in. I'm just smoothing it out. And then it looks more natural. You might not be able to see too much of a difference on camera. So I'm going to go around and paint each one of these edges. And again, I'm coming in just a little bit more as I go around this piece that's sort of indented here. I'm bringing it in onto like the bread area just a little bit more. And if you look at a piece of like white bread, you'll see where the little indentions come around the side, especially on Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread has actually a patented shape to it. There's no other bread that is exactly shaped just like Wonder Bread, but every Wonder Bread is the same shape. And they have patented the Wonder Bread shape. Kind of weird, huh? There's your fun fact of the day. You're probably going to say, that's it? Don't you have anything better for us? No, I don't. So I've covered the whole thing, gone all the way around, and now it looks a little bit more like a real piece of bread. So now on to the middle colors. We're going to want to sort of zhuzh those up a little bit. So we're going to take some of our burnt umber and put that over here. Now that's like the chocolate brown color. And I'm going to take just a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I'm going to put just a little bit there. And I've got some cinnamon right here that I'm going to use also. Now all we're going to do is darken some of these shaded areas, and we're going to sprinkle a little cinnamon on it. So I'm going to start with the lighter of the two colors, which, well, actually we have three colors here. I'm going to start with what we just did the crust with, which is the raw sienna. And I'm going to put just a little bit on a few of these lines. I'm just turning my brush sideways. You could use a skinny little, like a liner brush, something like this, a little bitty liner brush to do this. It's easier, but because I've already dirtied this one, I'm just going to keep on going. I'm going to take a little bit of that raw sienna, and I'm just going to go along the really dark part of this, and I'm just sort of dabbing and making some of that chai spice area pop out a little bit more. And I'm going to dab it in with my glove to make it look like it's in the bread. Hi, Sam. I didn't see you come in. Yes, they patented the shape of their bread. There's another one that's very similar. It has a weird name, but I can't remember it. Kimbo or something like that. You're allowed to patent shapes and smells and all sorts of things now. It costs a pretty penny, but you can do it. So I'm going to go on to the reddish brown color, which is the burnt sienna. And I'm going to add some of that. Now I've got in my bread mold, you see that bubble in the middle? Actually I have a few of them, but one of them is fairly large. I want to sort of dance this around the outskirts of the little crater here to make it look like there's a pile of cinnamon in there. And after I put it on, I'm just sort of smushing it in. Not really smushing, but just sort of blotting it, I guess I should say. Making it look like it's... You're just basically going over it and shading, just like you would shade rosy cheeks on your gingy or anything like that. It's the same concept with realistic fake food. you're just doing it with this instead of something cute and adorable like a gingy. I know I'm not nearly as interesting as some of the other creators on here, but I do try. I try hard. Maybe I should make a gingy face in a piece of toast. That would be cute. And I'm going to go back around the bottom of the crater area with some of this darker color, just to give it a little more shading. And then sort of the top edge on some of the just these edging areas where, you know, your French toast will get a little, that your cinnamony sugary will start to brown real good in the pan in certain areas, and your toast will get a lot browner. So you need to reflect that. And then, I'm going to do it. Here it is. I put a little cinnamon on here. It's really best to put this through a sieve, like a mesh, a fine mesh little sieve, or a little cheesecloth bag. If you just tap the cheesecloth bag, the cinnamon will fall out very, very lightly. The holes that they put in these cinnamon containers are ginormous. So when you're trying to get just a little bit on there, it never works. You can also do the little hand thing where you put it in your palm and then dance it off. That kind of works as well. There we have this one. It's pretty decent. I like the way it looks. So in the picture, they have them sort of stacked, you know, a little offset each one. So this one we could put like this. And then we have two. And then we'll go on to the next one. I'm just going to keep working. I've got 15 more minutes to see if I can get these done. I think I probably can. If anybody has any questions, yeah, cinnamon raisin bread. You could do that the same way as this. Cinnamon raisin toast with a cup of tea. That would make a really cute live. I could do that. I like making tea. I like drinking tea too. I love tea. I'm a big tea fan. I'm not big on iced tea, but I love hot teas. I don't have a lot of caffeine anymore because it bothers my heart. I have a little bit of a funky heart thing sometimes if I have a lot of caffeine, so I try not to have any most of the time. I drink decaf coffee, which I know, what's the point? It's the point of it, you know. I have to think I'm having coffee. It's not real coffee, but it has the flavor, and it's something warm, and it's in the morning, so we just pretend that it's waking us up. But all of my teas are decaf. I love Lady Grey. If you like a citrusy tea, it's not super citrusy, but it has a little bit of a citrus hue in the background. Lady Grey is delicious tea. JR loves chai tea. That's one of his favorites. I love cinnamon tea too. Anything cinnamon for me is delicious. Alright, so now I'm going to go back around like I did before, and I'm just going to soften these edges with my glove. Make sure I came in far enough on the little indentation. Oh, you know, I sold one of my turkeys last night to, what's the name again? The Washington Capitals hockey team. What they're going to do with my turkey, I'm almost afraid to think. I've sold things to baseball clubs, but this is my first hockey team. But they ordered one of my turkeys last night. I've sold a lot of turkeys this year. I told my daughter, I said, maybe they're going to play hockey on Thanksgiving Day and they're going to use the turkey as the puck. And she says, oh my gosh, is it going to hold up? I said, sure it will. It's covered in silicone. It'll hold up. I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, so I'm going around my crater again. And a little bit on the inside. I'm just going to smoosh that around. My lines aren't quite as defined on this one. This one's sort of mushed a little more than I wanted to instead of swirling. So I'm going to have to sort of make some swirls in this one. And then I'll just press it down with my glove and make it look like it's in there. This is really making me want breakfast. I was debating on what to have for dinner tonight. I may know now. We have a restaurant near us. It's called Expectations. They have the most amazing breakfast foods. I'm in love with this restaurant. And we don't have, we live near Charlotte, North Carolina. We're in South Carolina, but we're just over the border, so I'm like 6 miles from Charlotte. But we don't have a ton of really good restaurants that are close to us. But that one, boy, I really like it. Kind of give your shout outs to your favorite places, right? Alright, so I'm going to take some of this dark brown, and again I'm going to darken up some of these edges. Go around the corner, maybe on this one, over here, and just darken it up, make it look nice and cooked and browned and all the yumminess. You could do these with fruit topping too. That would be pretty cool. JR loves strawberry French toast. Yeah, Pam, I've gotten a little better at it. That's one thing about me is I'm persistent. I find it fun. I have fun at my job. I work a ton of hours. I love being busy. I love that people appreciate what I do. And I love that it's useful for home stagers and food photographers and stuff like that. I just love it. I do work a lot. I work pretty much 7 days a week, and a lot of hours goes into my week. But I do enjoy my job. It's fun. I have a weird job, but it's a fun job. It's fun for me anyway. Alright, so we have 3 on there. And I think we can probably complete number 4, and then we can put some drizzle on it. Now I made this one is condensed milk that they have drizzled over here, which is, if you know anything about the old Winnie the Pooh, you know that Winnie the Pooh loved condensed milk on his bread. Honey and condensed milk. He was a sugar-loving bear. And I love Winnie the Pooh. I'm not sure I guess condensed milk is just a sweetened little glaze in place of maple syrup that you would put. And because this is chai spiced, I guess the maple syrup would probably mask some of the chai flavor. So that's probably why they went with condensed milk as their topping on this. But I used my clear icing glaze, watered down just a little bit, and then I put a smidge of white pigment in it. I used the Ocean White Let's Resin pigment that you can use in resin stuff. It works really well in the icing glaze. So I used just like the end of a toothpick, and I make these little bottles when I'm trying to do the icing glaze to drip on something. You can put it in a pastry bag or whatever, and you can color it whatever color you want. But to keep it relatively clear with just that little bit of a white cloudy hue to it, sort of like a glazed donut topping, you want to just put ever so slightly the amount of either white paint or a pigment like that in it, and shake it up really good or mix it really good, and then put it in like a tipless pastry bag so that you can spread it or drip it, you know. But it dries shiny. It is gloss. That's a pretty neat little thing to play with sometimes. I've got it now to where I can do like royal icing style on a cookie and have it come out like royal icing. It looks pretty darn believable that it's a real cookie. You know, it's hard for me to paint and talk at the same time. Oh my gosh, 50 cookies for a Christmas cookie bake-off. So these are fake cookies, I assume? Fake ones take longer to make than the real ones. That's one thing I've never liked making, is real cookies. I find them tedious and annoying. My daughter loves making cookies. I despise it. I always have. I would rather make one giant cookie, like a cookie pizza or something, than make 10 batches of cookies. She is the macaron maker. She makes beautiful and tasty macarons. She just made some for a wedding not too long ago. She made the cake and she made some macarons. Absolutely gorgeous. She made a naked cake, and they had these fall flowers that they had her put on this cake. It was the most beautiful cake I think I've ever seen. That they picked some really fabulous color combinations. It was just so pretty. All right, I think I got this one done. Now, I'll turn this toward me and see what I have here. Okay, let's pull these off. Okay, so I've got my icing glaze in here. Now in the picture, it looks like they just sort of drizzled around here, there, and everywhere. And I'm wondering if I should turn these around. That might be a better bet. and make it look a little different. And you know, I may let's put this down. Let's do this another way. I'm going to get some of this going on here, and it'll help them stick together. Well, see, I've got this just thinned out to where it's just going to drizzle and drip and do its thing. But when it dries, it's going to be sort of semi-translucent, kind of like a glazed donut. All right. And I'm going to put the bottom of the toast pieces here, and then I'm going to put the bottom of the toast piece this way, because I think it's going to look better. And I think that's what they did here in the picture. And I'm just going to keep going with this. And when it dries, it'll be all stuck together. And I want some on the plate too. They have it on their plate. Sometimes I try and do it just like the picture. And get some of this on there. Now, I don't think I'm going to put the butter on the top, because I think that's just weird. I've never seen butter on the top of French toast, so I don't think I'm going to do it. Move that over just a little bit. All right. So what do you think? We have French toast. Look at that. Should I put butter on the top? I don't know. Oh, berries. You know, I have a strawberry sitting right here. Where's my rubber berries? I don't know if I have any in here. I have an orange, and I have a couple of berries sitting here. I could put a berry on the top. I don't know if I have my rubber berries in here or not. Let me see if I've got some slices. I probably have something. Oh, maybe I do. All right. Let's get rid of this. Clean him off. These are the new rubber berries. They're not rubber, but they're resin, but they're the flexible resin so that you can chop these into pieces. Yes, Jerry, this is like cinnamon roll glaze. A little bit more translucent though when it dries. It's more like glazed donut glaze. But you can put paint or pigment in this to darken it up. I love these sliced berries. It's got just the flat piece on the side, on the one side, and then the texture. But I love that you can cut them so easily. Absolutely love these. I do have some raspberries. I don't have any blueberries made. I just used them on my charcuterie board I was building earlier. You can put one down on the plate. Let's see. That's 3. This is 5. Yeah, we could have berries on that. Too many berries? I don't know. You can't have too many berries, can you? It'd be good if I opened it. There we go. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think my raspberries are definitely not cuttable. I do those with the straight resin instead of the flexible resin. I probably could do them with the flexible resin. I just have to figure out the color. The peaches, the kiwis, and now the strawberry slices are all in the flexi resin. And I mean, I love being able to chop them up. The orange slices are still, you have to cut them with a hacksaw if you want to cut them. But everything else is in that other one. But I've been learning more about the flexible resin. It's from that, the Foamit company makes the flexi foams and the flexi resins. And it's pretty cool, but they're really hard to use. Hard to get the hang of, I guess I should say. But I love this. And I'm not even a big French toast person, but I like this. I like it quite a bit. I think it looks pretty cool. So there you have it for me for today. I think at 3 o'clock Debbie from Paper Sweeties is coming on. And I'm going to put a little cinnamon in that. I could put sugar on it, but I think the cinnamon's going to have a better look. Oh, that's cute. I like it. That's actually better than I thought it was going to be. I was actually worried about this one. So I'll take some pictures of that a little bit closer up, and I'll clean it up a little bit and make it look a little bit nicer. And I will post that later. But take a break, and at 3 o'clock join Debbie from Paper Sweeties. And everybody else, I've been trying to catch all day who's been on. Just got done watching Teresa make some earrings, and that was pretty cool. So lots of other people coming up today after me. It's Jury, it's my icing glaze. It's in my Etsy. And I actually had it in the Wednesday sale yesterday. I sell it cheap on Wednesdays. Shouldn't say that on here. I do though. I sell the clear on the Wednesday sale. So yeah, it's a pretty neat thing. It's just an acrylic based material. Pretty easy to use. I use it for a lot of stuff. So if you're ever interested, you can just message me and I can help you out with that. So I'm going to get off here. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day, and I will see you again next week. Bye, y'all.